Amazing, beautiful people, how you doing? I don't know why I'm wearing this at the beginning. Welcome back to another ReZero Cut content reaction video. Alright, we're jumping into the next episode, episode 8. Now this is going to be an interesting one because this is the death of Subaru multiple times. After his memory loss, his amnesia, him waking up in the perfect center of the freaking library with a pile of books all around him, all taken off shelves, but none right next to him. He then proceeded to die and couldn't work out what it was until he did, and yeah, it was awful. So let's watch some cut content around it and see what more horrific stuff was left out, because as horrific as it always is, it can always be worse. And yeah, it usually is. Anyway, like and subscribe. Welcome back to Complete Chaos. Huge shout out Annie News, link to the channel in the description. And let's jump into my first time of reaction to the Season 4, Episode 8 cut content.
Memories comes at a monumental loss for everyone. Amelia's lost her knight, Beatrice the man who saved her from isolation, Rem and Julius the only person who remembers them, Ram the only living link between her sister and herself, Aridina her best bet in getting Anastasia back, then most importantly, Subaru lost everything that made him Subaru. We all knew he was the glue pretty much holding
Drinking. They all said over and over again throughout the episode, Subaru is still Subaru. So, I mean, kind of.
everyone together, but now that he's gone, things just got a whole lot harder. Not only that, with
that
one of the
confidence
most
is
brutal
gone.
deaths eating away at whatever sane parts of Subaru were left, it's
Yeah.
scary to think what might become of him when all of them are gone. So, the novel describes his deteriorating mental state in very graphic detail, along with the deaths leading up to it and the conversations before. There's a lot that explain why certain things happened and the choices certain characters made, so if you want to learn more about this tough time for Subaru, here's everything the anime left out from this episode.
Alright.
Episode 74.
Episode
Who are
74, baby.
Covering chapters 1 and 2 from volume 23 of the light novel. The Subaru we know might seem like a pretty amazing person, but the Subaru of old
pretty
was
good guy.
about as average as one could be. If there was one thing that differentiated him from the rest, it was the fact he tended not to show up for class. In fact, where most people typically dealt with life by making a series of difficult choices, Subaru's specialty was running away from those choices.
Okay.
He was a bit better than most at running away from the things he didn't like. So,
Is that
when it
supposed
came
to be a
time
parallel
choose
tied to
between
how he
going
is
to
now?
college or finding a job, Subaru instead just stopped going to school completely. And before he knew it, he'd become the exact type of delinquent most parents wept over. This was the Subaru that was here now, officially a high school dropout. More importantly than that, though, was the two girls trying to figure out whether or not something was wrong with him. Beatrice was stunned and her hand trembled as she hung on to his sleeve, but as much as it hurt to see her that way, Subaru couldn't do anything to reassure her. He was too caught up in his own
So that is basically showing us, or not showing us, wrong word. But it's highlighting the fact that the Subaru we are dealing with here isn't the Subaru that's trained and learned and adapted and grown. It's Subaru from day one. It's the Subaru who is going to be scared, is going to be a kid, and is a bit of a shut-in
fusion
neat,
to
as they would say in
her
anime.
problems. It was when he took in the current state of his body that Subaru would notice all these scars on him. They weren't something Subaru really minded himself, but he did feel guilty when he thought about what his parents might think. It was another issue to throw on the pile of complicated feelings he felt between him and his parents. Subaru's subsequent introductions would proceed pretty much the same, then at breakfast Subaru would meet even more attractive people. That was the one thing he felt they all had in common, making him feel bad as the only person bringing the average down. When it came to meeting Shaula next,
I love that that's the only thing he's thinking about. Is that they're also good looking. And I'm so average!
he
No!
would make an interesting comment about how this wasn't the first time Subaru forgot her. If the
That is interesting. That is very interesting. Because Subaru was worried about telling Shaula that he didn't know who she was. So he's been pretending he does know who she is, but she's now basically implied that he's forgotten her a few times. That's well
words
interesting.
were to be taken literally, then perhaps Subaru, or in this context the sage, loses his memories more times than we might think. Either way, According to Shaula,
Interesting.
this wasn't the first. When Ram tried to separate Subaru after, her back and forth with Amelia would give Subaru
Shaula's
clues
hand
as to what
placement's a
his
bit
role was.
sus.
Ram had mentioned Subaru being a servant to Roswell, so that led Subaru to think he was some sort of errand boy. Immediately, Amelia would try to correct that, but
You are
before
the
she could
errand
finish,
boy.
Subaru would joke about being lovers. She was, after all, exactly his type, but as far as he was concerned, she was way out of his league. That's why Subaru felt he could joke about it, him feeling nothing when she stated that they didn't share a romantic relationship. Subaru would then tell everyone that it was fine, calling Amelia and Beatrice in ways the original Subaru never would. That much we saw for Amelia, but what they didn't show after was Beatrice's reaction when he called her Betty. It was a far cry from the Bayako that she was used to hearing. Seeing her expression definitely hurt Subaru because for him, he didn't like letting people down like that. So,
Oh, little Betty, man. Bless her little heart. You see her sad face? Making her sad just makes me angry, man. I've just pissed me off. She's too damn adorable to be made. She's best girl for a reason. We must only ever treat her with kindness and adorableness because she is cute, I suppose.
when Ram confronted him the most aggressively out of anyone, all Subaru could do was apologize for not being able to live up to her expectations. It was clear she was desperately trying to cling on to something that he had forgotten. In the end, all Subaru could do was apologize. Apologize for forgetting, for not being able to answer her, and so much more. As they were now, both were helpless to the circumstances they now found themselves in. Now, it was on the way back that Subaru would overhear a conversation between all the others.
Oh, by the way, random little point. I loved that in the... What if this conversation never happened, by the way? I love that in the last Annie News video, he had basically said that he only reads up until the anime. So he's reading alongside the anime episodes. And so many people in the comment section were like, what? I thought he was like, read it all.
Specifically Amelia telling
I
them
did
why
as well.
Subaru would never joke about something like this. Because he knew just how painful it was to be forgotten, Amelia knew he would never joke about forgetting someone. They were words that carried with them absolute trust in Subaru, but to the Subaru of now, he didn't think that at all. Perhaps they were meant for the other Subaru, but as he was now, he felt no one should have faith in him. It was once Subaru had returned to the room that, as we saw, Julius would reintroduce himself. Ram did say in their conversation Subaru's treatment of him was cruel, but for what reason Subaru didn't know. And while Julius did consider themselves friends, the truth of the matter was that he wasn't sure if the real Subaru felt the same. If the Subaru...
It's kind of sad when you think about that. Julius himself considers Subaru his friend, but Subaru's never really once addressed it. And I guarantee Subaru does, but he's so fucking stubborn and hot-headed that he constantly does like blanket over it a little bit.
To make an opinion off an initial impression, he did say Julius looked like the type of person he'd snap at the first time meeting him. In any case, with Anastasia's confession coming right after, Ram's blunt assessment of the situation left Subaru with zero confidence at all. He understood they were here to ascend the tower and find a way to wake up Rem, but with the group unable to progress and Subaru being one of the reasons why they couldn't progress, as much as he felt bad about it, Subaru was ready to call this mission impossible. It was right as he was about to say it that...
Where's Tom Cruise when you need him?
That's when Amelia would be
Get
the
that bro
shining ray
running
of
in
hope
here.
for everyone. That was enough for Subaru to look forward with reckless determination, a feeling Subaru
Reckless
was probably
determination, the
mistaking
best
for
kind of
decisiveness. You
determination.
see, because Subaru had forgotten just how great the barrier in front of them was, Julius felt the need to remind him the dangers of overconfidence. That one remark was all Subaru needed to get a grasp on how his relationship with Julius used to be, fully believing they weren't quite friends or enemies. Because of the clear emotional distance between them, Subaru felt whatever relationship they'd had was built gradually. Surprisingly on the mark read, considering he'd only talked with Julius for a minute. It was after that Aridina would share more information about...
The thing is, you would know, right? Like, you would know. Obviously, you would change over time. But let's say I lost my memories and I jumped back like 5 years and I met someone who I had a relationship with now. You would know straight away whether or not you'd be friends with them. You would literally talk to them and go, okay, I don't know if I'd be friends with this guy. Like, you would know straight away.
her relationship with Anastasia, unsure what to actually call her.
It's actually well interesting. Like, if you lost all your memories and you had to re-meet all of your friends, how many of them do you actually reckon you would consider yourself being friends with? If you had to, like, meet them for the first time. Would you be like, man, I'd never be friends with this person? It turns out they're, like, your best friend.
At first, she called herself
That's
a
actually
friend,
interesting.
but when Amelia questioned how deep the relationship actually was, she helped Aridina see they were actually family. The existence of a contract wasn't what solidified their bond, but rather how much the two of them cared for each other. Aridina would then explain why she decided to reveal all this now, also mentioning that Subaru was aware of her secret first. Ram was of course pissed because to hear Subaru had kept yet another secret from her, well, perhaps he tucked his memories away with all his other secrets. Millie would then add fuel to the fire herself, after which Subaru would make quite the funny remark. Then came the talks about herself.
Does that mean he doesn't trust
After
anyone
which
else? Can you not add any more kindling? I'd rather not start
Subaru
World
would make
War.
quite the funny remark.
Lolita.
Then came the talks about how Subaru ended up like this, a conversation that eventually made its way to Shaula. With Shaula continuously calling Subaru master, finally Subaru would ask why that was. Normally he wouldn't mind having such a woman chase after him, but something was off regarding her affection. Unlike how Amelia's or Beatrice's felt earnest,
That is a good point, though. Even when Subaru's lost his memories, you have this like beautiful woman all rubbing up against him, and he doesn't seem to care, which sounds not like Subaru.
Shaula's was fundamentally different. In the end, Julius would state what I'm sure everyone was thinking, and that was the clear detriment of not having Subaru to support them anymore. He didn't mean to say it as if they all relied on him, but the truth was, Subaru supported all of them tremendously. So
He's the
now
only
that he
reason
was
they
gone,
got through the
all
first
of them were
challenge.
feeling it. Now, in the anime, the group would exclude Subaru from going to the archive, but in the
One awesome thing that is happening now because of his memory loss is we are seeing that Subaru's so integral, which is nice. It's like that reassurance that look how far he's
novel,
come.
they would actually take him. It's here everyone would learn Subaru could no longer read or write anymore, so in the words of Ram,
He couldn't read
was
or
useless
write!
baggage here in the archive too.
What?
Still, they would continue looking for answers anyway, and when
Random.
Subaru suggested putting all the useless books away into a pile on the floor, Aridina would say how that would likely break one of the tower's rules. You'd
Why?
think where the episode ended, Subaru would have no prior knowledge of those rules, but it was here in this moment that everyone would explain it to him. They would tell him he could neither disrespect the archive nor try to leave, and if he did, Shaula would transform into a merciless killing machine. The thing is, considering how ridiculous all that sounded, Subaru just assumed it was a joke. He just couldn't see Shaula transforming into a murderous Terminator, despite
you
her
can
literally
understand.
referencing one of its lines. Plus,
That's
with
the
Subaru
beast.
not being aware of her inhuman strength, he wondered how dangerous someone like her could be anyway.
Not dangerous at all, man. Look
In
at her,
any
she's
case,
adorable.
With Subaru not being able to do literally anything, all he could do
Funny how they reference Terminator when her eyes are like something from Predator. Both movies with our big old boy Arnie.
was sit there and wait. This was exactly what everyone wanted him to do, even making him promise he'd stay with them. So, unlike how in the anime everyone was fine with leaving Subaru on his own, pretty much all of them felt he needed to be watched. Based on the results
That's
of his
a big
actions,
change.
they couldn't trust him to just sit around and wait anymore.
That's a
It was
very
in
big
the meantime
change.
that Subaru would get more acquainted with Meili, one of two people not helping with the investigation.
Meili is the one I am mainly suspicious of, which is funny, pun intended. I think she's the one pushing him down. Unless there's someone hiding in the place, I think it's her.
She was, after all, brought for one job only, so anything else she couldn't be bothered with. The other person not helping was Shaula because, according to her, she couldn't read or write either. Just talking to her would lead her to make her usual advances on Subaru, actions he found rather unrefined for a woman. This was apparently something Shaula's master would always tell her, yet another thing that never changed about him. Now, I couldn't tell you what Shaula's implication.
Change or not, you're still you, so who cares? If you just do what you want, how you want, then I just go along. That's all that matters, even if it leads to some weird results. What weird results? If something weird happens, then I'll just open a path forward with brute force. You must have forgotten, but that's just how our relationship works. I like to think that they're really close, because it'd be kind of cool if they do end up becoming close. Not like physically close. Although, whatever. He couldn't sense with a whiff of interior motive in a frank answer. The moment her true thoughts on the matter hit him, Subaru's eyes opened wide, and then he looked away from Shaula, so she couldn't see his face.
Were behind the choice of her words here,
Okay.
but I think she and Subaru were talking about two different things here. Either way, with the nature of their past relationship laid out right in the open,
I don't know
Subaru
what
would
two
be
things,
embarrassed
though.
by what he thought she really meant. He would
Well,
then
sex.
hide his face deep within his knees, waiting for the investigation to turn up nothing. It was
Did
after
he think it was
that's when
sex-related?
Subaru
I don't
would
think it
be
was.
testing his newfound abilities,
I don't
only
think she has
finding he
anything
had
in
more
that.
endurance. His strength was a bit more noticeable too, but not in any way that one would call a divine blessing of sorts. He would also test a series of iconic transformation poses, but as far as powers went,
Why did
he
they leave
had
that
none.
in? That would have been hilarious.
So, as much as Subaru wanted to be the guy that everyone could rely on, it seemed all he had was bonds he couldn't remember. This, however, was where he wanted to be, and with the place they were in being all he had, Subaru wanted nothing more than to find the strength that would allow him to remain.
We haven't even got
He
to the
didn't
first
want to
death
be the
yet.
same Subaru that was always receiving and always consuming. Still, the more evident it became that Amelia and the others were worrying about him,
It's interesting how he never once feels awkward in this situation. He's literally in a room with a bunch of strangers, but he just adapts so quickly, which is in character because he did that straight away anyway.
the more he hated himself for taking up a place he hadn't earned. That's why while everyone was discussing how to approach the Subaru situation, Subaru would be out in the hallway figuring out if he had powers. He would also ponder all the possibilities of how he ended up like this, considering the trials he accomplished and the trials he was yet to accomplish. He was well aware a test of strength awaited them up on the second floor, but as much as his kendo skills made him better than an amateur, he wasn't so foolish as to think he had actual combat ability.
He actually did so well
Those
against
ones
Elsa
Subaru
when you
was
think
done with
about
his
that.
experiments that, in an attempt to
Like,
get
he
back
did-
to
he did
base,
so
he would end
surprisingly
at the
well.
Staircase.
When you
Thoughts
consider
of assault
it's Elsa.
filled his mind as he pondered the architectural oddity that was this staircase, leading him not to notice he was falling until it was too late. That said, as far as deaths for Subaru go, this would be quite the tame one. The only pain he felt was the burning sensation when starting to choke on his own vomit, but aside from that, Subaru would be unconscious before he even hit the floor.
I see, yeah, the first one he just fell and splat, right?
With that, I guess we can restart the counter now, so with death number 1 bringing with it the confusion of not knowing he had even died,
There you go.
Subaru would really lean into the idea that his superpower was precognition. To him, it was a really hit or miss, hard to use ability, but if properly harnessed, it could definitely be powerful.
True.
That said, knowing what was gonna happen
Probably
didn't
not one
make it
anyone
any
would
less
pick.
painful when it did. So, when Beatrice had to set aside her emotions and speak courageously with heartbroken eyes, the way she trembled hurt far more than it did last time.
Oh,
Even
yeah?
when she resolved herself to put up with him anyway, to Subaru, these relationships were nothing but sandcastles. The foundations were certainly there, but that's pretty much all there was. And to the Subaru of now, he was certain that wouldn't be good enough for the Subaru of old. Subaru
I kind of like how we're seeing that Subaru is constantly thinking about his old self and how he doesn't want to let his old self down. Because it's a weird kind of concept, really. Like, if your memory's gone and you wake up, the fact that he's constantly worrying about how his old self would feel with his actions now, I feel like, I don't know, obviously I don't know how I'd react in this situation, but I feel like I wouldn't even consider that. So it's just a lot about Subaru that he thinks about it
would
constantly.
then manage to gloss over the fact he somehow remembered their names, proceeding with his day as closely to the first as possible. He wanted to test how accurate his prophetic dreams were. If he did have this power of prophecy, though, then what Subaru found strange was the fact that no one had commented on it. I mean, considering how powerful such a thing could be, Subaru found it hard to believe that all these people would keep it from him.
True.
That being the case, the natural explanation then was that they just didn't know. That in turn meant
Also, Shaula, when one of the rules is broken, she turns into a monstrous killing machine just automatically. Why? Did someone put like a power, a curse, a spell on her, or is that how she is herself? Why exactly does she do that? Who did that to
old
her to make
Subaru
her
never
act that
told
way?
them, making new Subaru wonder why they didn't. That then planted a small seed of distrust, all stemming from the question of what was Subaru thinking. That the anime made very clear, but what the anime didn't show after was the way he acted differently. In fact, with reliving everything being like watching a movie for the second time, Subaru couldn't replicate the same emotions he did the first time around. So, when everyone was reeling over the unreasonable situation they found themselves in, Aretina would comment on Subaru's rather calm demeanor. He was clearly the least disoriented out of all of them. Really, he was dealing with all sorts of emotions, just not the ones everyone was concerned with right now.
So he pretty much spent the entire day just trying to, like, think of things. He was just going through all in his head, trying to, like, I don't even know. He's just trying to, like, compare
There
it
was
all?
sympathy
What was
for
he
their
doing?
efforts, guilt
What was
towards
his
his
plan here?
abandonment,
Just to see if it would
distaste
happen?
towards
If he
the
actually has
Subaru
these
he
abilities?
was supposed to be, then all sorts of negative emotions constantly mixing together and growing. So, despite his best efforts to replicate the previous loop as best as he could, Subaru's change in behavior also changed the mood. Compared to last time, things were off. Still, he would manage to lead them to the archive anyway, Subaru feeling overwhelming guilt for effectively deceiving
So weird he
everyone.
can't read.
In fact, the only person he felt relief when talking to now was surprisingly Shaula. Because she treated him the same regardless of whether he remembered her or not, Subaru found a bit of comfort in that. Once
I guess she's
Subaru
used
was
to
back
it, right?
where he was in the previous loop, a lot of time would be spent trying to figure out the specifics of his superpower. The more
Did you not find it weird that he's not worried about who pushed him? If someone pushed me off a cliff and I came back, my first question would be, who pushed me off the
questions
cliff?
he asked, though, the more he felt he would end up in butterfly dream territory. A terrifying state where thoughts went in circles and questions remained unanswered.
Oh.
The premise was to question the fuzzy line between dreams and reality, so in Subaru's case, he wondered if he ever
Kinda sounds like that
woke
South
up from
Park
his dream,
episode.
or was the reality he experienced now just another dream? To him, the only way to find that answer was to go past where his dream had ended, after which he would commit to telling the others about it. He was so desperate to change the situation that now he was willing to do something old Subaru never did. That's when Subaru would overhear their words of doubt, a conversation they may not have even had Subaru not acted so strangely before. That's right, Subaru's behavior would be a key reason cited for their suspicion of him.
Oh.
It's not like they didn't trust the Subaru of old, but this blank slate Subaru was far different. Much to the point that Ram would straight up say he couldn't be trusted. Trust was clearly the pain point half the party was dealing with, so when Meili suggested they just ask him if they could trust him, that's when Subaru would run away. He had every intent to speak up and break the ominous vibe he was feeling, but the tension was far too much for him to handle.
So it can't be her pushing him then. It's got to be someone else. And who do we hear in that conversation? Because Millie is part of the conversation. Ram's part of the conversation. There's got to be someone else in the castle, right? Someone is fucking pushing him off, man.
So, just like in his past life, Subaru was once again running away from life's tough choices. Whether due to the miasma or just the overwhelming pressure of everything, it's important to note the miasma definitely is still affecting him.
Okay.
The only reason it's not mentioned in the novel is because the concept of it isn't something Subaru is aware of. So, considering the miasma is still this ever-present toxin, its effects on people's behavior should definitely not be forgotten.
Okay,
In any
alright,
case,
that's good to know.
with
I
the
didn't know
group
that was
showing
still
they didn't trust
doing what it
Subaru
was
at
doing.
all, Subaru's feelings were hurt in a way that he currently couldn't manage. He didn't expect them to trust him right away, but he was at least...
I'm surprised he's upset because he doesn't know them. I know they're having these conversations and saying that they know each other, but in his mind, he doesn't. He's a stranger to them. He's like woken up, got no memories, bunch of strangers, and then they go, "We don't trust you," and he's gone, "You don't trust me? How could you not trust me?" Like, I don't understand.
they'd have
He
a
should
little faith
understand a
in him.
little bit.
What he'd heard back there, though, was zero faith whatsoever. It's for that reason Subaru now saw himself nothing but a fool, since what he thought was at least a sandcastle of trust was in actuality just him greedily trying to claim what the old Subaru had earned. That's why he felt they wouldn't believe a word he said. If anything, the whole situation was hopeless from the start. He couldn't prove he had his powers, and he couldn't be the Subaru they wanted him to be, so with nowhere to go and no place to fit in, Subaru knew he had nothing. What happened next was what could only be described as a recurring hell. Pain that refused to let Subaru go. The anime does a fantastic job animating it, really highlighting what the novel grotesquely describes as Subaru becoming nothing but a lump of flesh. He had already lost his memories, but
not
now
nice.
he was losing his form. In the end, all that was left was a sack of blood. A repeatedly malformed thing that couldn't even be called Subaru anymore. His existence was quite literally shattered now.
What the fuck is
It was
this?
this pain that would overwrite Subaru's very being, enveloping every emotion until the world itself was pain. Everything else just seemed worthless, so when that pain was finally released and Subaru awoke, his only thoughts were to escape the pain that was surely coming back for him. Eventually, the thought of pain transformed into the thought of death, so...
You honestly cannot fault Subaru at all for this. His actions are just so 100% warranted. Every single part of them. You just understand it,
now
man.
Subaru felt that that's
he is
what
literally
he was
going through hell.
It was as if he could hear Death's footsteps approaching him, so out of desperation to get away, he would run without thinking. To Subaru, Death had come for him already, so why was it that it was coming for him again? It was a suffocating sensation that made him feel like he was drowning. It was when he ended up at Raid's that at first Raid was willing to let him go. He just told him to come back with the girls, but when Subaru ignored him, well, we already know what happened. It was after that Subaru would take the time to try and make sense of everything, finally coming to see where it was he went wrong. You see, Subaru had made the mistake of trying to run away from everything.
Maybe the only reason Raid acted the way he did, because I said it seemed really out of character that Raid was just a massive arsehole. Maybe one of the only reasons was because of the girls. We know that that's one of Raid's weak points, so maybe he just lets himself down a little bit over girls. But then again, he was different with Julius. He was still an arsehole, but he was respectful and kind. But then Julius was at least portraying the character of a knight. For some reason, Subaru's attitude and energy really rubbed him the wrong way.
He couldn't handle the events of what had happened in the first loop, so when he came back a second time, he created a convenient excuse that made sense of it for him. He'd even gone so far as to think of the whole situation as someone else's problem. That he now knew was a grave mistake, and by not facing the problem head-on like how he should've, he was now facing a world of suffering beyond his wildest dreams. All he could feel was futility, loss, despair, and negativity, each of which made him yearn for the life he'd lived only hours ago.
Really looking forward to the next episode. At the time of recording this, it's tomorrow.
Was the very thing he was trying to run away from. It was Death finally caught up, ready to take him again. Not only that, this time Subaru could see the very face of Death, and the visage mocking his entire existence was none other than his own. So, with Death being him and him mocking who he was, Subaru refused to be killed by himself. If he was gonna die, then so be it, but Subaru was hellbent on making sure it wasn't him that caused it. So, for the first time, Death's smirk would finally change, shifting into an almost annoyed look.
Gosh,
it seemed upset that Subaru was...
Seeing all these flashes of all the deaths and like going back is actually so freaking disturbing.
Gonna do what it wanted, and that in turn filled Subaru with life again. The more Subaru carried on, the angrier Death got, up until Satella came in and shared what could only be described as an unimaginably powerful emotion with him. Subaru had a tough time putting to words what emotion that felt like, but if he combined every time any person in the world had ever said I love you, to him that would equate to her I love you. That was just how much passion Subaru had felt from her. That passion then turned into pain, as the way she caressed his heart made it seem like she was doing so out of jealousy. It was a sensation strong enough to make Subaru piss himself. A sorry state Death was once again mocking him for. Now Subaru could only think he'd been duped, punished for thinking he was strong enough to beat Death.
A caress out of jealousy is interesting, because she may love Subaru, but Subaru's never shared that love back.
Subaru could only see everything as a punishment for being weak and punishment for being foolish. All he could do was cry as he wished for Death to just take him already. That's a pretty good spot to end this episode, since what happens next starts in the next chapter. Be sure to subscribe if you want to see that episode, and if you...
Huge shout out to Annie News, man. Huge shout out to Annie News for making these incredible videos. They are so much fun to watch, and so much bloody fun to react to. And I have a really good... I'm leaning over here. You guys see me? Hello? Hello, how you guys doing? Just plugging them in to charge. There you go. I'm running out of battery. And I have an awesome time freaking checking these out. They're always so much fun, man. So huge shout out to Annie News. Link to that channel in the description. I cannot wait for the next episode, which feels weird, if I'm being completely honest. It feels like a weird one to be excited about, because in the last episode we literally saw Subaru be tortured over and over again, and now I'm standing here going, I'm excited to see the next episode, which presumably is just going to be once again Subaru being tortured over and over again. Which I feel like is a weird thing to say you're excited about, but that's kind of true. So even if I sound nuts, I'm not looking forward to the idea of Subaru being tortured, but I am looking forward to seeing any outcomes. The things I'm most excited about now are answers. I want to know how he lost his memory. I want to know why. I want to know what his plan was. I want to know who's pushing him. I want to know the answers. I want to know all of these things. And the only way we're going to know those things is by watching the next freaking episode. I got so many questions. I want results. I want to see what happens. I want to know. I want to bloody know. It's like there's so much that's just changed. Subaru's energy is terrifying. How's he going to react when he inevitably gets blasted by Shaula? Because we know she's going to come after him after the last episode. So I'm sure she's going to... Thing is, what's she going to do? Is she going to one-shot him? Imagine if Shaula just kills him in like a devastatingly brutal way. And he wakes up, looks at her, with his memory being affected. He's just going to look at her like a monster. And in this episode, we just found out that she's one of the only ones that he's like found a safe haven in because of how she treats him. But if she like mutilates him in a disgusting way, he's never going to look at her the same. If she one-shots him, maybe he'll be fine. But I don't think that sounds like ReZero. In my head, it makes more sense for ReZero to take the brutal route. Subaru wakes up, sees her, and is terrified of her. And that's the direction I think we're going to go. I wonder why she's like that. I wonder what makes her act that way. Why that's a rule to begin with. And if she does know Subaru, what is the story there? There's so many questions around this season. It's got more mystery than I feel like any other season. Season 2 had a lot of mystery, and it's definitely similar in that regard, but I have much more investment in these questions, especially when you think about where we are, who's underground, what's going on. So much, man. What are the trials? What's the outcome? We're here to wake up freaking Rem. How are we going to do that? So many questions. Anyway, hope you enjoyed my reaction video. Like, subscribe. I'll see you guys on Wednesday if this video is out before or after. And let's see what the hell goes on. Thank you for watching. Have an awesome day. As always, my friends, you will see me in the next video.